Welcome to Kvetchfest. I'm Jen.
And I'm Debbie.
We're Jewish.
So we like to kvetch.
I like to complain.
And I like to discuss things.
I grew up with my mom talking about all sorts of stuff. So I thought it would be fun to bring her onto Kvetchfest so we can have more conversations about life, politics, and everything in between.
I'm a boomer.
And I'm a millennial.
Our different perspectives could lead to shared insights, differing opinions, and new realizations about the world, ourselves, and our relationship. Be part of our community as we explore more together in relationship as parent and child.
Complaining can be cathartic, so let's kvetch together. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Kvetchfest. I'm Jen.
I'm Debbie.
And today we're going to uncover why people lie. We don't know. We only have our experiences of why we've lied. I mean, I'm sure we've lied. I've lied. We've all lied. We've lied to ourselves. We've lied to other people. We've probably even lied to our pets and our children.
It could be considered pets at times.
Or baggage. No, sorry, that was rude. So we're going to talk about and discuss what happens when people lie, why do we do it, and what's the benefit, or what's the opposite of benefit. You're supposed to help me out here.
Unbenefit.
I'm sorry, weren't you a teacher?
Yeah. That was a long time ago now. Pitfalls.
A long time ago.
We'll just say the pitfalls of lying.
The pitfalls of lying. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That was a little too late, Mom, but it still worked out.
Okay. Sorry. Timing.
Do you remember your first lie?
Yeah, it was wrapped up with stealing something.
Oh.
Is that a different episode?
Part 2, thieves.
Yeah. Liars, thieves, yeah. Well, yeah, so I went to this really cool, you know how we have that store, is it called Daiso now?
Yeah, Daiso? Daiso?
Daiso?
Yeah.
Well, we had a store, there was a store kind of like that, but I think it was owned and operated by a family. Mm-hmm. And they had some really cool things from Japan, but probably from, here too. But I went with my mom and they had, I'll never forget this, they had perfumed erasers.
Oh, wow.
So they were these little square erasers that you could see through. They were kind of translucent, sort of more maybe opaque. And they were like different colors, light pink and minty green and that kind of thing. And I walked by the display and they were just in a box on the shelf, but the shelf was sort of tilted so you could see them when you were walking by. And I picked one up and I smelled it and I thought this was so incredible. And I took it. I put it in my hand and I took it. I had never up to that point ever even thought to do anything like that. I think I was 8. And maybe that's when the developmental process is you're starting to figure out what your morality is.
Right.
Because I also went through a stage where I was testing out if I could be a bully, because I had been bullied throughout school. And when I was 8 years old, I started to sort of bully back, and I felt really bad about it.
I did that too.
To this day, I still remember the girl.
Me too.
Felt really bad about it. Yeah.
I know her whole name, and I understand that.
But anyway, so my mom was in the store. We must have either bought something else or we were just browsing. And I came home, and I guess when I got home, the errors of my ways probably took over. And I told her. And I think she said, well, why didn't you just ask me to buy it for you?
Right.
And I think I was afraid she was going to say no. Although my mother wasn't known for much of saying no. She said yes most of the time.
Yeah.
So she made me go back to this. We went back to the store.
Oh, accountability at 8 years old. Okay.
Yes. And we went to the person at the front of the store. It was a woman. And my mom said that I had taken that out of the store because I really liked it and that we were there to pay for it. And I think the whole thing cost a dime. I mean, I think that's what we were talking about.
That's the principle of the thing.
I remember the dime being transferred from one end to the other. and I went home with the eraser. I'm not sure the eraser, I mean, when I think about it today, I still am really enamored over this perfumed eraser, and I don't think I've ever seen one since. So she made me go back and pay for it.
Yeah, well, that's good
Yeah.
parenting.
Yeah, I think that was the right thing to do. When I think about it now, I'm wondering why was I testing the waters on that, or what was I afraid of, or had
Right.
I had my parents had a discussion about how they were spending too much money on things, and I didn't want to add to that load, so I thought I would just
Mm.
become a kleptomaniac and take things. I don't know.
I wonder if it has to
But
do with testing your independence too,
yes,
and
maybe.
maybe wanting to have control and just
Right.
choosing something for yourself, and then yeah, kids are funny. I mean, I just worked with 3 to 5 year olds today, and it was Big Feelings Friday. And 3 year olds, 4 year olds, they just lie. They do. I mean, you
Yeah.
ask them, "Did you hit that person?" And they say, "No." But of course they did. You saw it happen.
Yeah.
And even
Hmm.
if you didn't see it happen, usually there's some sort of white lie happening where you
Right.
missed. They're not giving you the whole truth. And partially they don't know how to navigate that quite yet. But it's so funny to just have a 3 year old just lie to you because you're like, "Ugh, you're adorable. And also, you just need to tell me what happened so that we can navigate." I always say, how can we be problem solvers today?
Right.
Because that helps them understand that they can solve their own problems, and giving them independence from a young age to solve problems,
Yeah,
I
some
think will,
autonomy.
yeah, some autonomy. Ooh, some big feelings, some a lot of lying, a lot of throwing shoes and objects and hitting and crying. So yeah,
And
that
you
was
know what?
fun.
That doesn't change when you get into the upper grades either, so
I know, at
let's
least
just
they're softer punches at this age, a little bit.
yes. Yes. But there's a lot of lying in elementary school
Oh
in
yeah.
general.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. A lot of
Yeah.
lying. A
Not wanting
lot.
to take accountability for your actions.
Yeah.
You feel like they are justified, and therefore you don't have to tell the truth. And
Right.
I think that's what we do to ourselves. We have this justification that the lie is okay because it, it serves a purpose for us.
Right.
And so we
Yeah.
can get away with that because in which other people think the same thing,
Huh.
but we always think we're above it in a way. It's
Mhm.
okay for us to lie
Right.
because it's serving a purpose, but not the
Mhm.
other guy can't lie, right? There's
Exactly.
part of that in there too.
Absolutely. And there's,
Yeah.
I think when you're that age too, kind of going through puberty and growing up, you are embarrassed a lot and self-conscious.
Hmm.
So I think you lie to save yourself from
Right.
embarrassment or
Yeah.
uncomfortable
To
feelings.
save
Yeah.
face. Yeah.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, people are going to lie, and I guess if you have the foundation of trying to be a truth seeker and you're teaching that to your kids and your community, then hopefully it doesn't become something that's super toxic in their future where they just become rampant liars. Or what is that's a there's something like that where people lie all the time.
Pathological lying.
Pathological lying, yeah. Or just
They
people
can't
that have
really
really just,
stop themselves.
yeah, they can't stop themselves. I find that really fascinating because I feel like also that's, well, I don't know if that's manipulation, but I guess it could be. I think
Yeah.
that
I
this
think
whole
it's
thing is interesting because lying is, it's not just a perception. There is truth, but then when it's something between people, perceptions can be shifted. So then, what is the truth? Is someone lying? Is someone leaving something out? It's interesting to me.
I think it is very interesting, but I think well, first of all, I think people who are pathological liars, they're not really in sync with themselves. They're not
Yeah.
the whole personality hasn't kind of come together for them. So they're operating with sort of a split sort of feeling about morality
Mm-hmm.
and what's moral to them may not be moral to other people.
Yeah.
But the whole manipulation thing, yeah, that's part of lying for sure. And people say, what is truth? And we construct truth, I guess. But I think that your gut tells you what the truth is.
Yeah. It's like your guide,
And
right? It's
yeah.
your moral
And it's
compass, I guess.
right, and for those that are being lied to, they know the lie because it doesn't they know that they feel in that moment their gut might be telling them as well, but they feel there's a wobbly sensation
Yeah.
that comes over you when you know
Mhm.
somebody's lying to you and you have to kind of wait. You kind of step back for a minute and you try to fit it
You're right.
y- because you're a rational person. And so
Yeah.
you think you're talking to a rational person, and really lying is not really rational. It's rational in the moment to the person who wants to get out of something, or who
Right.
wants something to stop, or who wants to manipulate you. But
Mhm.
the other person who's receiving the lie
Yeah.
doesn't feel right, like the world has like a little tilt in that moment,
Yes. It's like
right?
betrayal, right? I mean,
Right.
it's yeah.
Yeah.
Lying
And
and
if you
betrayal go hand in hand.
Oh, absolutely. And if
Yeah.
you are solid enough of a person and have done work on yourself, you understand what happened and you don't allow it. You
Right.
say, "No, I know what I said, or I know what the truth is, or I know what happened, and
Mhm.
so I'm not going to get involved in it." But it's even hard for people who have done a lot of work and know these things, not to be, gaslit,
Mhm.
right?
I
Not to be
know.
manipulated.
Yeah.
I think most people come from an ethical viewpoint and they think they're on the same path or track or reality as the other person. And when the other person shifts or
Yeah.
takes a turn, and you're like, whoa, 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 what just happened here?
Yeah.
Because this person looks normal to me. Why
Yeah.
are they saying things to me that I know are blatant lies
Right. Yeah, I
or
know.
didn't happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very disconcerting.
It's very disconcerting. I know. And it's
Yes.
interesting because, like I said in the beginning, I've lied. Other people have lied to me. I've been betrayed. I've been a betrayer. And yet, it's interesting to me because certain times that person will always be a liar to you. And you might never move past that they were a good person at one point. But we all have layers. And so I think people who lie are still considering themselves good people, which I don't think is wrong necessarily. I think it's kind of a human thing, but it kind of falls in line with being a hypocrite. Like we're all hypocrites because we live in a complicated, complex world. I mean, people that have hurt us, sometimes it's hard to look at them the same, even though they go on to live lives beyond their lies or
Right, and
betrayals,
that's
right?
because you try well, sure, because when
Hmm.
somebody lies to you, it automatically disrupts trust,
Right. Yeah.
right? So the only way they can build back the trust is to discontinue lying to you.
Right.
So they have to say, "I promise I'm not gonna lie in the future to you."
Mhm.
What maybe it's not gonna lie to you in this context, or not gonna lie to you about this thing, but I promise I won't do that. And then the person has to have many, 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 many instances of when the person has stopped lying to
Yeah.
build that trust back in.
Mhm.
But
Absolutely.
most people who've been lied to or gaslit or manipulated are always on sort of a precipice,
Mm.
wanting of, well, I'm not sure they're really telling me the truth, which is sad because the other person who actually now may have made amends
Mhm.
is not trusted as deeply as the person trusted them before,
Before, right.
right? So
Mhm.
you said you labeled yourself a bunch of things, and I don't think that I've been a betrayer.
Mhm.
I think I've been betrayed, but I
Right.
don't think I've been a betrayer. But I
Yeah.
have. So we have these different kinds of levels of lying. So I know I have said white lies.
Sure.
So white lies are things like you say that you like a person's dress, but you think it's obnoxious or
Ugly.
terrible,
Yeah.
right? And there's a book. One of my
Like
favorite books
yeah.
is Go Dog Go, and
Right.
through the whole thing is, do you like my hat?
Yes.
And right, but he tells the truth. He says, no, I don't like your hat.
Yeah.
And most of the time, I would probably say, if I didn't, I would probably say, yeah, it's a great hat. Because what's the point of not
Well, yeah, like
right?
that goes into is telling a lie ever a good thing or it can
Right,
be a good thing, and I think that gets tricky too, definitely. You don't wanna hurt someone's feelings.
right.
Yeah, it's
Like
complex.
as an end to a means to an
And
end,
right.
right? You want to keep the relationship,
Yeah.
but how many times can you hear a person say they don't like what you're
Right.
wearing, they don't like your jewelry, they don't like whatever,
Yeah.
and after a while, you don't want to spend time with the person who can't either not say anything or at least validate you once in a while,
Right.
because that's what friendships and relationships are about,
Mhm.
validation. So I
Mhm.
think when a person tells a white lie, it's probably for the good of the cause. I like this overall relationship, so I'm just going to put up with that weird hat. That
Can't like everything
whatever.
about someone necessarily.
No,
So, yeah, I
and we
think that's
don't have to tell
impossible.
them, right? And we don't have to tell them everything we don't like.
Right, which then I think is gets into this really tricky area where it's like if you ask something of someone and then they say, "Oh, well, I don't like it," then you receive that as a truth about yourself. And I think really that shouldn't be the if you want the truth from someone, then be ready for the answer and don't allow that to get your
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know what the words are
that's
right now, but
no,
yeah, it's
no.
like
I get what you're saying because when I was younger in relationship, I asked questions I probably should not have asked because I didn't like answers I got.
right.
So now, as
I
I'm an
know.
older person in relationship, I don't ask those questions anymore
Yeah.
because well, now I think to myself, it's really none of my business
Yeah.
what that the person I'm with thinks
Right.
about
Like
that particular
if
thing.
if I
It
like this
only
t-shirt,
matters to me.
right.
Right,
I'm going to wear the
right,
t-shirt even if I know you don't like it cuz I like it.
right,
Yeah, I know.
right,
I
right.
know, it's a whole thing. But it's so
Yeah.
funny how you can get down on yourself because your partner or someone is like, it's not my favorite shirt on you." You're like, "What? Why? I look good."
Well, that's all you have to say. Sorry
Yeah,
you don't like it. I
yeah.
do.
I know.
Oh,
It's
well.
and it's not a reflection because there's definitely clothes that my partner wears that I'm like, I don't really like that sweater, but that's fine. So it's
Right,
not, but they still wear it, and it's like, yeah, they still look nice. It's just not my
right,
favorite
because
colors or whatever.
we
It's
have
not a
to
big
get out
deal.
of the idea that we're a reflection of everything else. We're
Right.
not if
Exactly.
we're
Yeah.
we're not. Sure, the way our kids maybe behave differently than we taught them may seem weird in the moment, but,
Hmm.
it doesn't their clothing is not a reflection of you as a parent, stuff like
Yeah.
that. I mean, but, we have all these
I
things,
know. I
but
appreciate
I
you
would
letting me wear like velvet crop top. I don't know what I wore as a kid, but I definitely wore weird stuff. So thank you.
well, you went around with a mermaid costume for a long time with a tail back there. So, fair enough,
If only I could
whatever.
go back to that.
It was so cute.
I bet it
Um,
was.
it was cute.
So,
Um,
as a parent, did you expect to get lied to by your children, and did you also expect that you'd probably lie to your kids at a certain point?
that's a good question. I don't think I went into parenting expecting anything. No, I went in thinking I
Uh,
knew certain things about myself as a person
yeah.
who could parent.
Okay.
And as time went on, I realized I was not too bad at it. I kind of did it.
Yeah.
But yes, I think there were times when you and your brother lied, and I was like, "Why are you lying?"
Like you knew immediately, or
I wondered how can I say it? What kind of enemy did I display as myself that made you to have to lie? What kind of, terrible person was I or
no, I don't.
fiend,
No, it
you
has
know?
nothing to do with you. It's just that you were the parent, probably, and that we were teenagers. I assume that we lied when we were teenagers more than when we were.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, but I think it was because you lied to me about things you were experimenting in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's
Not
more about
yeah.
shame, probably, and embarrassment than
Right.
anything else. Yeah.
Right. Or to cover something you didn't want me to know.
No. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. Hmm.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, and I don't need to know now. I don't know that you lied to me that often, or either
Yeah.
one of you lied to me that often.
No.
It was only when I caught you in the lie that I realized you were lying to me,
Right.
right?
Dang
So
it.
you might have
Yeah.
been really good at it and I didn't know, and that's
Yeah.
fine. But the times that you weren't so great, I caught on and figured it out.
Right. God, that must be really
Yeah.
difficult as a parent.
You know what? For me, it was because, first of all, I want there should be a little disclaimer on here, which part of this conversation bothers me because right away I'm going to say, this might be inappropriate, but I have to say it or else I'll be a liar. I
I'm
hate's a strong
intrigued.
word.
I'm so intrigued
I
right now.
I really do not like hard-ass parents. Plain and simple.
Like strict,
Strict, restrictive, sarcastic,
authoritarian.
authoritarian, because they get
Yeah,
what they are afraid of the most.
I think you're right. I think you're
And
absolutely right.
they go from the history of themselves as children, and the
Mhm.
reason they were like that is because their parents were restrictive,
Yeah.
authoritative people. So
Yeah.
they have to break the cycle of that, and
Yes.
instead of coming to the table as a parent not trusting your child, how
Mhm.
about we come from the basis of trust, lead with trust, and then let out the line little bits at a time. You don't let out the whole line and let the kid hang themselves by it, but
Yeah.
you let them out little by little by creating autonomy, like you were saying earlier,
Mhm.
and dealing with feelings realistically
Right.
and not just laying the law down, punishing, disciplining, corporal stuff. I don't care. I think that gets you exactly what you don't want,
I agree.
period.
Mhm. Full
And
stop.
I really doubt, I know I have people in my family and I have close friends who will say, but I turned out all right.
Mhm.
Well, you may have had the benefit of a more progressive society when you were raised and you saw other things,
Yeah.
or you love your parents with an element of fear. And I don't
Right.
care. I don't like that.
Right.
Or you yourself wanted to be restrained like that because you were out of control. There's so many things we could talk about with that. But I think that when this discussion it keeps coming up, it lends itself to me that when people lie, they lie because they've been around liars.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
they learn to lie and lying becomes
Second
okay.
nature. Right.
Yeah, it becomes
Normalized.
part of their culture.
Right. Yeah.
And I dealt with that in education. I had lots of parents lie,
Right.
and
Mhm.
the kids would come and tell me. They
Mhm.
knew their parents were lying, and they
God.
didn't like it. But what
Yeah.
could they do about it?
Oh god, that's gotta be
Because it
so
was their
difficult.
parent,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And then you would have to get to the sometimes depending upon the parent, you could get to the root of what they were feeling. What was their insecurity? What were they
Mhm.
embarrassed about with school? What's going on that you have to feel that you need to lie in front of your child? Does it
Yeah.
have something to do with what's going on in the classroom with me? Let's talk about
Mhm.
that. And
Yeah.
some parents were able to discuss that, and other parents
Nope.
just would do the oddest things right in front of me. They didn't want to come to conference, but they were there on campus, and I saw them on campus, and they were supposed to be meeting with me, and they would dodge me and run underneath windows.
Oh
So I
my
was not
goodness.
supposed to see them. I'm like, "Really? All you
Mm.
had to do was say, 'I'm not up to it," or "I don't want to.'" I'm not
Yeah.
parental, but they saw me, I guess, that
They
way
saw
at
you as
times.
like a I don't know, authoritative maybe.
So yes.
Yeah, which
And
is strange.
so, that's all to me, that's all part of deceit and lying.
Yeah.
And that's because there's a lack of maturity there,
Yeah. There's a
right?
huge I think people lie due to lack of maturity, lack of emotional intelligence, stability, things like that.
Sure.
And I also think a lot of people who lie lie to themselves. And I mean, whatever way that looks, whether you are actively telling yourself lies or if it's just a subconscious thing. But
Oh,
there's a
sure.
lot to unpack there too with lying to ourselves. And I've definitely done that too. What's my truth? What do I want?
Right.
How do I get there?
Right.
And a lot of times too, it's like if I'm mm, not lying, but maybe like withholding information or not sure how to navigate conflict or something, that's where things can bubble up too, where you're not like your best self. If you haven't had enough experience being able to navigate those things, you lie.
Right. Oh, sure. I mean, I think that we lie to ourselves all the time, like, "Oh, I don't really need to exercise today," or "Do I really need to take that walk?" or "Do I have to tell my spouse that I spent X amount of dollars?" or
Hmm.
right? Or silly lies like, "I know I shouldn't have watched that program without them, but I'm gonna do it anyway, but I'm gonna tell." I tell. I said, "I know I wasn't supposed to, but I'll watch it with you again." And honestly, I'm so sort of truthful in that I have access to all this stuff, but I know that my partner will wanna watch some of it with me, so I just don't. I just have delayed gratification
I
on it, and I
know.
don't do it. But there's sometimes I'm like, wish I could, but I
I
just won't allow
know.
myself.
I
So I
know.
think maybe I'm a little overboard that other people can
Like too
justify that.
honest
Too well, I won't say I'm
or
too honest
too
because
communicative. You have
well, both, but I think that
is
I
that a
may
thing?
feel like I'm too honest, but I will say that I can't say I've never lied, right? I
Right.
just told you about the eraser thing. They're
Right.
very benign
Yeah. But that
lies.
was in your
Or,
childhood. I mean, in adulthood, have you
right.
lied?
I may have lied during my working career to colleagues. Sure.
Yeah. Or a
Yeah.
big lie that I do is, are you free this weekend to hang out? I've got some plans, or I'm
Right.
gonna lay low. I mean, it's not because I want to hurt my friends' feelings or things like that. It's more just like we all need downtime, and but also, it's sometimes it's easier to say that over a text than it is to be like, well, I've been having a really hard week, so I want to have some downtime. I don't know. Sometimes you don't. Depends on how much you want to share to whoever you're communicating with, I guess. But
Yeah.
those are kind of benign. Are they benign? I don't know. Am I outing myself as like not great sometimes?
No, because I think that we all do that. But I think one thing that I have learned over the years, and some people have learned it probably way earlier than me, because I have this I want to be liked mentality that is really has
Yeah.
eroded away from me over time. But
Yes.
initially, I would say you were saying say too much. So I would tell a person why I couldn't do what I was doing, what
Yes.
they wanted me to do, or why I couldn't participate.
Well,
Now I just don't. I just say I'm not available,
right. And
or
that's
you
the
know,
thing. I had some friends that would be like, I'm busy this day and this day and this day, so I could do this day and this day. I'm like, just tell me when you're free. Don't tell me
right,
all the things, all the times when you can't do something. It's just too much
right,
information. I can't
right,
parse
right,
through that.
right, right.
And so I try to be clear about when I can see people and also when I just need some downtime. And I am clear about that. I do communicate honestly with my friends and community, but sometimes you just need some downtime and you don't want to go into it. So you just say, I'm not available, like you said, and like call
Yeah,
it a day.
I don't need to tell everybody all my business,
You know,
and
your
I also
Michigan.
don't wanna be put in the position of lying,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
being caught in the lie.
Well, I know. And well, this goes back to, I'm sure we've talked about this, where it's like, okay, if I'm going to say I'm busy and then I decide to go out, or I was busy but not in the way that they thought, and I go out to an event with other friends or something, and then those friends post things on social media and tag me. Okay, so I'd rather be honest, because I know what it feels like to be the person on the other side of that screen where your friend hasn't reached out to you in months, years, and you're hurt by that because what the heck? Why are
Right,
you hanging out with these friends but you haven't contacted me in a while?
right,
What's that about? So
right.
yeah, social media,
See, I didn't have to
it's
worry
gonna
about
catch you.
that. What I did
I
worry
know.
about was running into somebody at a restaurant or department store
Right.
or where I wasn't
Yes.
supposed to be there,
Right.
which still
Yeah.
happens
Like
it
when you
still
take a
happens
sick
today.
day and you're like, I'm gonna go to the mall.
Right, yeah, and you haven't that wasn't blasted all over social media because we didn't
I
have social
know.
media,
How
right?
nice. Gosh.
Right,
Those were the
right.
days.
Those were the days, but I still felt uncomfortable because what if,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
happened to run into
Right.
whoever I was gonna run
And
into?
you did. I mean, the community was small and you
Yeah,
did run
there were
into
times
people.
sometimes we did run into people,
Yeah.
but I think what you said earlier, I think it's just better to tell a person, "I would love to get together with you, but I just need to recharge because
Yes.
I won't be bringing my best self to this,
Yeah.
occasion, so let's make it in 2 weeks or how about
Hmm.
next week?"
And
That's
that's how
okay.
that's
Yeah,
definitely how I navigate things
yeah,
now
and if a
than
person can't
before.
handle the truth, then you'll
Right.
start lying to them.
I
I'm
know.
kidding.
You can't handle the truth. I know. 20s Gen,
So
not so great at communicating. 30s Gen, much better.
yeah, it's good. Well,
Yeah, growth.
life
That's
is a
what we call
process of
growth.
evolutionary. Yeah,
Yes.
evolutionary. So
Didn't
I
remain
have a
stagnant.
couple of things I wanted to ask or talk about.
Okay.
So, is it okay to lie to further your personal or political or professional agenda?
Oh gosh. This one's complicated for me because There's so many layers to that question, and because you have to bring in all the elements of who that person is that's lying, I think sometimes, occasionally. Hear me out. So, like, cis white man, he could probably further his career without lying and he'd be fine because the world
Right,
caters to people like him. A black woman or a transgender person, if they can only get ahead by lying, or because there's already so much systemic barriers to
right,
people's existences who are marginalized, and they lie to get ahead in some way. I don't know. I think they're playing the system because the system's rigged. So
right.
the fact that the system is already deceitful to certain bodies makes me
Makes it
feel
okay.
like it's okay.
Right. Well,
Now,
there's
we're
that.
generalizing a huge topic,
Sure.
of course.
Oh,
But,
yes.
but
Yes, yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
It's just a little tip of an
yeah,
enormous conversation
right. It's the
because, in
iceberg
this,
tip.
in the climate that we're living in now, it's generating more and more liars.
Well, okay, and here's the thing. So I'm going to take it back to looking for a job. I grew up with the understanding don't ever lie on your resume, right? And I never did. And I still haven't. But I see so many things talking about how, well, in order to get a job at McDonald's or any fast food chain, you need to leave off your master's, your bachelor's, and just put on your other, basically make an entire different resume for just food
Right.
service. Okay, that's kind of lying, right? If you have to leave out parts of yourself because you're going to be overlooked for a job like that because they're not going to consider you because you're educated, quote unquote,
Right.
or because it's a dip and you're not going to be there very long.
Right.
Or
Or
it's
they think the
like,
job's beneath you. You're overeducated for the job, so you
right,
want to
but
show
in
that
this
you're not. Right.
economy, holy
Right.
hell, every market is saturated and competitive.
Right.
So it doesn't matter at this point. You could have a master's of freaking PhD and people are applying to jobs in fast food because they can't get hired in their place of interest. And the same thing goes for corporate. I mean, people are like, well, you have to curate your resume for the job you want.
Mhm.
Well, that's fucking lying, isn't it? I mean,
Well, so
mm,
curate is synonymous now with lie.
I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't
I
know. I
get what
just
you're
feel like
saying.
you should be able to put down your experiences, whether it was fast food, being a teacher, working at a creative
Right.
agency, and people can say, wow, you're well rounded, and you could probably parse out all the skills that you've done into this job.
Right.
Why are we having to fucking curate, pardon my French? I'm very
Right.
upset about this, our resume for each freaking job, because you know what? At the end of the day, it's not working anyway for people.
Right.
So
Right.
to me, it's like if I'd rather see someone's resume that wow has a breadth of experience in all different areas, and it might not be exactly what I'm looking for, but they could probably be hiring as a recruiter. I could look at that and be like, wow, I think that they could still work and do this job because they have all this experience. Versus seeing, I don't know, I just feel like it is kind of lying when you're trying to market yourself in a certain way. I mean, marketing, it's kind of lying, right? I mean, you're trying to put a product in the best light.
Right.
You're leaving out the fact that they hire people, in another country and pay them shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could go
So
on.
is
I'm ranting.
is omission lying, and is
Yes.
tailoring lying? I mean, there's so many
Yes.
euphemisms for lying,
I
and
don't know.
I just don't.
I'm I'm
There's going to be a time where you're going to have to lie for the good of the
Well,
situation.
and here's the thing. I told my partner a couple weeks back, I was like, and even, while I was unemployed, I was like, I guess I got to play the game. If this is the game, then I'm going to play it,
Yeah.
I don't know what you want people to do. You don't want them to lie, but now we're curating resumes. I don't know. It just feels this really weird, messy, it's again, systemic barriers, systemic issues that are far larger than corporations and the people who run them. I mean, they're
Right.
their own toxic places.
They need an ethics department.
Yeah, that's not HR.
Certainly. Right, which is,
They
yeah,
need an
separate from.
oversight committee. I'm kind of not joking.
Oh my gosh. So what a while back with something I hadn't heard before. Seriously, people are going to say, "Come on, you never heard this." And in fact, I haven't heard it before so much so that I can't even quote it well. But
Okay.
there's something about do the thing but ask for forgiveness later. Do you know
Oh
the whole
yeah, it's what is that saying? Oh my
See,
gosh. What is it? I just said it to someone. Speak, seek, forgive. What is it? Oh my god, I can't believe I forgot the saying. Dang it. People
Google,
are
Google.
listening being like, "What the hell, you guys?" They're screaming
Well,
at us right now.
that's because I never that the concept of going ahead and doing something I knew which I wasn't allowed to do, and then asking for forgiveness if I got caught was
Yeah.
not in my
Yeah.
worldview,
Okay,
not
here's the
my
thing.
consciousness.
I know, and here's the thing, this is kind of a manipulation thing that I do, and I to make my life easier. I can't believe I'm gonna say this, but I do this kind of frequently in my life where it's at work especially where it's like I do 90% of the job and then I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot to do that one part."
Well,
And
90% is pretty damn good
yeah,
considering what other people
I don't
probably
know.
are
I don't know
doing
what
to the
that
job.
is. I do think it has to do with something called, oh no, did I forget what it's called? Oppositional
Oh,
some
defiance disorder?
yes, I have that. I'm like
Another bunch of initials, serious?
yeah, it's called odd,
Odd.
and I am
Mhm.
odd. I'm pretty sure I have that because I cannot stand when someone tells me to do something. And it's not mean. It's literally someone asking me, "Can you wipe down the tables?" And I'm like, I'm gonna do it, but I hate being told what to do. I really do. And that's the cool thing about social media is you get to learn a lot about things that you didn't want to learn about. But here I am learning about oppositional defiance disorder and I'm like, "Oh my god, I've had that since I was a kid." I really really don't like to, and I'll do it, but I have a whole attitude inside me that I don't show because I'm an
Is that
actor.
why you sat down and wouldn't let us know you knew how to walk?
Probably. I was like, "Oh, you bitches? No, I'm going to be held." I'm going to get away
Every
with
time
this.
if we'd walk in the room and you were walking around the table or something when you were a toddler, the minute you saw us, you would sit down.
Yeah, I still have
Like,
that. Whatever
I'm
that
not showing
is,
them I know how to walk.
it is part of me.
Oops.
Yeah. I know.
That's so funny.
I know.
That's so funny. So, can you get to the actual truth? Is it possible to be 100% truthful? Do you know if a partner's being 100% truthful
Yeah.
with you? I mean, in the normal everyday things, probably, but
Right.
so is omission not lying? And so you're not necessarily lying, so you're not telling the
No.
truth.
I
So
think
if
that's
you, let's
lying.
say, this is a stupid thing, but let's say you decide that, you're vegan. We know that you're vegan, but you just feel like one day you just need to have a Jack in the Box taco.
Well, that's between me and Jack in the Box.
Okay.
Okay.
And you don't come home and confess.
Yeah, that's fine. That's like your
Right.
own choice. You're not like
Okay. Oh,
hurting someone else. You know what
so
I
you
mean?
so yeah.
But I will say, I think omission is passive lying.
Okay. Passive, yeah, I get it. It's like
You know,
being passive aggressive in a way. Yeah.
I think it obviously it's like very dependent on and it's situational, but I think if you're telling a story and then the thing that you're not adding to it is nagging on you, probably should tell that part of the story too,
Right.
you know?
Right. Right.
That's why I think it's kind of passive because you're intentionally leaving it out, right?
Right. I think that I have omitted things when it doesn't make me look good in
Oh,
a
yeah.
situation. Right. And I
Yeah,
know
me
I've
too.
done that at times professionally,
Sure.
but very few and far between, I would say, because I
Yeah.
haven't wasn't really put in that position too
Yeah.
much.
But we're
But
still good people, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
totally. Perfect. So I'm thinking sometimes that certain people who lie pretty consistently, and we won't call them pathological liars because that's a mental health disorder, let's
Sure.
just say. But
Mhm.
people who lie consistently or the drop of the hat, do they just not care? You're like, what
Yeah,
does it matter?
I think so. I think it's a carelessness. I think it's a lack
Yeah,
of, again, emotional intelligence, lack of maturity, lack of accountability and willingness to try and grow, for sure.
right. And to
Yeah.
face consequences.
And to face consequences. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think so many people don't want to face consequences, me included sometimes. It's like, "Ooh, that's uncomfortable. Ooh, that hurts. Why are you poking me?" Well,
right.
because you gotta grow up, Jen.
But I will say, in some moral situations that are very complex, whether it's
Mhm.
a court case or somebody's legal issues, I think bending the truth at times might be something that needs to be incorporated.
Well, yeah. Well, it goes
Um,
into, I mean, the whole, like, court cases, like what you were saying. I mean, having a prosecutor and a, what's the other one?
defend
I
a
mean,
defense attorney.
defense attorney. I
Uh-huh.
mean, some people say, how could you ever be a defense attorney if you're
Right,
defending a criminal, right? Okay.
right,
But again, definitions, right? Like, how are we
right,
defining criminal? Are we defining
right,
criminal based on someone murdering someone? Are we defining criminal by someone trying to get a better life for themselves and walking across the border into a better country?
right.
You know, like, I wouldn't think of someone
Mhm.
as a criminal who's trying to better their life. And what we criminalize, again, those are all very
Sure,
specific things. So, but this goes back to like due process. We have to have that in order to perceive and find the truth
true.
of the situation. But it is
Absolutely.
interesting to watch a courtroom or to have an understanding through a television show how prosecutors bend the truth, right? And how defense attorneys bend the truth too, right? It's based on all the information that they can get, but then people leave shit out anyway in legal situations all the time. And also, legal stuff is also a mess. So,
It's
yeah.
manipulative as well.
It's manipulative. So yeah, it's really complicated to watch court cases because you're like, wait a second, that what that okay.
A lot of court cases, depending whether it's the prosecutor or the defense, the prosecution or the defense, they also can omit or withhold,
Right. And it's
right,
also
things
all
that
about moving up the chain in that world too, right? Like if you win a case, that looks really good for you. If
right,
it was, even if it was at the expense of someone else. And that's problematic to me.
right. But there is so much of that.
There's so much of that.
And in many different aspects of life.
Oh, and
It's
many.
just, stepping on somebody's head to get to the next
Yes.
goal.
It's sad how easy it is to do in our world. And how even I can get caught up in situations like that where it's like, well, I want what they have. And how come it's easy for them to get it? And why? So, what should I do to get that?
Right,
Do I just advocate more and more for myself, even if it's tricky, right? Because it's easy to get caught up in that kind of world. And then you have to be, oh, wait, that's not the kind of person I want to be, you know?
right.
But it's so
No,
easy
yeah.
sometimes.
I feel like truth goes along with justice,
Agreed.
and I would like to be on the right side of that.
Yes. Right side, but left leaning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Way
Ba-bum.
to say that.
We'd love to hear from you. Send in your complaints and maybe they'll be featured on the show. On some platforms, you can even leave a voice message, and you can also leave a typed message in the Q&A box on other platforms. So please reach out to us if you want advice, if you have questions. We have episodes out twice monthly, so every other week there's a brand new Kvetchfest episode. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Kvetchfest, where complaining is cathartic. And don't forget, if something's on your chest, kvetch it off.